I'm Toast Flash, and welcome back to another episode of Hidden Blocks, the series where I take a look at some hidden or lost content in gaming. Today we're going to be diving into one of my favorite N64 games, Super Mario 64. There's actually a surprising amount of beta content that didn't make it into the final cut, as well as some cool stuff here and there that you won't be able to see in the final version. From cut enemies and items to an entirely scrapped minigame, we'll be covering everything from secrets unseen and bits lost completely on this episode of Hidden Blocks. The game's all set up, so why don't we get started? Alright, so first up, I'm going to do something that I haven't done before in the series, and use a free camera to see some stuff that happens behind the walls or off screen. I understand that these videos have been, fairly popular recently, but I do hope to be original in what I have to show. Let's go ahead and use this feature outside of the castle in the very beginning of the game, where we meet our dude Lakitu, who appears seemingly out of nowhere. You okay there? So the developers never actually modeled anything below Lakitu's torso because it was never supposed to be seen, but the cloud that's usually blocking that area is invisible from the angle we're looking at it. Why? I'll explain in a minute. So what we get left with is a pretty hysterical looking Lakitu, who then proceeds to float away to the heavens. He graced us with his presence. Whoa. And his little camera was adorable. Yeah. But now, he must leave the Mushroom Kingdom to go somewhere. I don't know. Since he literally floats out of the render distance for the game, he quite literally just vanishes. We're about to start off with Bob-omb Battlefield, but before I jump in, I should tell you that there's nothing behind the painting but a black abyss. Mario just jumps through a transparent object and disappears forever. Not surprisingly, the star select is just a white 3D room that has a single transparent star in it, but since you weren't ever supposed to move the camera, you can clearly see a white box around the course logo. Literally unplayable. Thank you, Nintendo. Forgetting that, there's also some pretty cool stuff we can demonstrate without the camera lock in Bob-omb Battlefield. Remember when I was talking about that non-existent cloud before? Well, the same logic applies to Bob-ombs. The reason you can't see them from a certain angle is that they're just a texture that perpetually faces Mario's direction, but since the camera isn't exactly where it's supposed to be, we can see everything Miyamoto didn't want us to see. That also applies to trees, coins, and yes, King Bob-omb, who I might add is literally a floating mustache with a crown. Simply amazing. Speaking of, why don't we go fight him? Wait, what is that? So it turns out that Mario gets replaced with this really low poly dude every time the camera pans out, because it's less polygons to render on the screen, and for the most part, it works, since it's only when Mario is moving. But I mean, come on! Look at the hands in this guy. Those are just blocks. It's pretty funny to see some of the stuff Mario does when he doesn't have Lakitu over his shoulder, but for now, we'll move on to some unused content that's still in the game. To kick things off here, this is something that could have played a pretty important role in the game. The Yoshi egg. The fact that this is here means that Yoshi was probably originally planned to have actual gameplay components and even a potential power-up, or playable, as the sprite was to be used in the HUD of the game. I have to say, riding on the back of Yoshi while racing Koopa the Quick would have been a bit more interesting than just a foot race. But we kind of have to move on from here. There's also a coded but untextured enemy in the game called the Blargg. You might recognize the name as it's made some appearances in other Mario games, but for here it just kind of jumps up and down and does damage to you if you touch it. Unfortunately, there's not much more stuff left in the data of the game itself, but there does exist another version of the game with more to be found that I'll cover in a couple weeks, so be sure to subscribe and enable notifications as you won't want to miss out on that one. Anyway, now on to some beta stuff. Basically what the game could have had, but the N64 just couldn't handle. Originally, there were supposed to be 32 courses in the game, but obviously hardware limited them just to 15. A remnant of this idea is that a Big Boo key would have unlocked a lot of doors in Big Boo's haunt, but it was removed and replaced with a power star as there wasn't much data left in the game to write. If you think that's bad, getting denied content gets a lot worse from here. Remember that L is real sign on the star fountain? Well, while my boy Luigi doesn't exactly exist in the game at the present, there was originally plans to have a multiplayer mode where Mario and Luigi would be on the same screen for the whole time as the camera could pan out and compensate for the distance between them. It would have been cool to have, but many speculate that this idea may have went towards Super Mario 3D World for the Wii U. But Luigi's pretty persistent, so that's not the last we'll see of him. There was a Mario Bros style minigame where yes, Luigi would have been playable. Everything was going fine, and the game was nearly ready for release. Except the N64 only came with one controller. So they took him out completely. Luigi was fully in the game, coded, playable, and polished, but they removed him because the N64 only came with one controller. Why logic when you can Nintendo, am I right? Sadly, this was the tragic end to the Luigi saga in Mario 64. To end off on a less frustrating note, it's widely believed that Mario 64 was created from the prototype of an unreleased Mario game for the Super FX chip. While there's no evidence of it, it's still nice to think about a Star Fox-like Mario game that everybody would have probably hated. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a like down below or comment some suggestions for the next one. If you want to help the channel out, a share is always appreciated, or you can check out some of my other stuff. And if you enjoy it, don't forget to smash that squishy red subscribe button, because you do not want to miss what's in store next. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.